Hey YNR fans! Waving hand, welcome to YNR Trends, your go-to spot for the juiciest Young and the Restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama you can't stop talking about. From surprise returns to scandalous twists, we break it all down for you, every day. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. According to Friday, August 15's recap of The Young and the Restless, Kane Ashby will agree to drop his proposal for a reunion with Lily Winters. Here's what YNR fans may anticipate, as Adam Newman will also play a corrupt cop. Adam will discuss Billy Abbott's involvement in the drama with Chelsea Lawson after Newman Media exposes Kane as Aristotle Dumas. Because Billy set himself up for failure by siding with Kane, Chelsea won't mind. Billy will appear and take a few stabs, but this attack on Kane's character will aggravate him the most. As far as Billy is concerned, it will be a blunder that will come back to haunt them all. At some point, Billy will go to the Tack house to reassure Victoria Newman that he doesn't hold her responsible for the actions of the Newman men. Billy will want to stay and reassure them that he's okay, as Victoria would acknowledge that the kids are out riding and most likely haven't seen the piece yet. It will be discussed how Victoria is handling the loss of Cole Howard and how much she values Billy's help. Victoria will also receive updates regarding Billy's recent confrontation with Nick Newman. She will ask him about the true situation with Kane, but Billy will maintain that his primary concern is Abbott communications. Nick will inform Sharon Newman at Crimson Lights that Victor Newman is pressuring him to form an alliance with Kane. That idea will worry Sharon, who will question why Nick must continually be on the front lines. Nick will minimize the danger and come very close to kissing Sharon once more, but Adam and Chelsea's entrance will cut them off. Before they all discuss Kane, Chelsea and Adam will be taken aback by the near lip lock. When Nick reveals Victor's new plan for a Kane alliance, Adam will be perplexed, but Nick will assume that it's a good cop, bad cop scenario. Chelsea will fear Victor has more tricks up his sleeve, but Adam will believe he's supposed to be the bad cop. Chelsea will pretend that perhaps he should be concerned about all of them instead of Kane's threat, since he is sick of thinking about it. Adam and Chelsea will admit that Sharon appears to be becoming closer to Nick after Nick departs. Chelsea will know what it's like to rekindle old passions and unite people. Sharon will concede that a happy ending with Nick, similar to Adam's with Chelsea, would be ideal. But in the end, Adam will caution Sharon against allowing Nick to harm her once more. Lily won't believe Kane when he tells her on the train that Chancellor is the only person involved in his scheme. Lily will continue to demand the full truth after sensing that Kane is withholding something. Lily plans to give the children a much less attractive interpretation of Kane's behavior if she doesn't understand it. Lily's readiness to turn Maddie and Charlie Ashby against him will surprise Kane. Lily will be more worried about Kane's current personality and the impact Colin Atkinson has on him. Eventually, the topic will turn to Kane's desire for Lily to return, and he will confess that he would drop all he had planned for her. Kane will admit that he genuinely thinks they belong together and that he would leave Lily if he didn't believe that. Lily will be aware of the article that exposes Kane as Dumas once she receives a message from Devin Winters. Since the twins will now learn through a media outlet that Kane deceived them for 6 years, Lily will understand they made a mistake. Knowing that he will need to undertake damage control, Kane will ask Lily for assistance once more. Lily will urge Kane to quit whatever he's planning for the Abbotts, Newmans, and possibly even her family, because she will remind him that he stated he was willing to give up his entire plan for her. Lily will agree to assist with Maddie and Charlie if Kane does that. When Kane interrupts to apologize for blindsiding him with the Dumas article, Nick will become irritated. Nick will pretend that Adam worked on the essay more quickly than the other Newmans would have preferred, but Kane will appear doubtful. Since he will have something to run by, Nick will finally persuade Kane to join him for a drink. Kane will acknowledge that sounds interesting and promise to stay in contact. Kane will return his focus to Lily after Nick leaves. Maddie will keep ringing Lily's phone, but before she answers, Lily will want to know if Kane would back out of his plan. According to teasers for The Young and the Restless, Kane will have to make a significant choice, so pay attention. Nikki is furious over Victor's most recent plan, while Christine questions Daniel about the nearly impossible. Thursday, August 14, 2025, Victor confronts Nikki, Danny and Christine return from Chance's burial, and Lily grants Kane's request on the young and the restless today. Before going to drive the Ferrari, Nick at the ranch gushes over his mother's lime green pantsuit. Fearfully silent, Victor uses this opportunity to question his wife about whether or not she really sold Chancellor to Kane Ashby in France. Nicholas was being held captive, Nikki reminded her husband. Victor discloses his source to be Kane Ashby because he is annoyed at being kept in the dark. According to Nikki, she did it and has no regrets. But the fact that Kane and Amanda had all the paperwork ready beforehand annoyed her. Victor lashes out at Nikki for allowing Kane to control her. According to Nikki, Victor had best not be upset with her because it was her choice. Victor then discloses that he has designated Lily Winters as their insider with Kane. Nick poses the issue of the week: how will they defeat Kane? Nikki is, to put it mildly, dubious. Victor claims they will persuade him to want to work with him. He gives Nick the assignment to connect and look for areas of agreement. With the man who held him hostage? Nikki sniffs. Victor is certain that they can convince him to forget about Chancellor and give him Jabot instead. They will assist him in assuming control of the cosmetics business. Nikki claims that the mustache is still upset with her and declines to participate in this. Victor tells her that if she tries to save Jack Abbott, they will run into trouble. Nick tells his father that he can rely on him. Is Lily going to play Kane? Kane greets Lily warmly as he boards his train in Genoa City, saying, "All aboard." He tells her that he has a train on every continent, which isn't extravagant at all, but Lily makes fun of him for having the train sent to Wisconsin. Kane makes his point, stating that he thinks trains are romantic. As it turns out, Kane's dislike of flying began when he was married to Lily. To get right to the point, Lily asks what he believes they still need to say. She doesn't trust him, Kane complains. Lily gawps, she doesn't, of course. She accuses him of being there to cause trouble, and they argue about his attempts to get her back. Kane offers her a scone in response. Kane offers speaking with Maddie and Charlie together when Lily asks if he has spoken to them. Lily fumes, telling Kane he must take responsibility for the consequences because he did this. Since Kane isn't convinced, Lily makes him an offer. If he tells her what he's doing there, she'll inform the youngsters with him. This time, she wants the complete truth. What will Christine ask Lauren to do? Christine informs Lauren, and us, about Chance's off-screen death when they meet at society. Lauren casually remarks that she hopes Nina finds solace in knowing that her kid is interred close to her in Los Angeles. Chris talks on how devastating this is for Dom and how Jill was there for Nina. Lauren warns that Kane is back in town with a fury as the conversation invariably turns to him. Although Lauren warns that there is more going on, his affections for Lily, she reassures Christine that she would be vigilant regarding Kane and his business dealings. They discuss their history and the likelihood of reconciliation. Christine reveals her engagement ring by using history with an X. Lauren lets out a suitable squeal. Lauren says they'll get started right away when the bug begs her friend to help her locate the ideal wedding gown. Daniel tells his father everything. As Daniel boldly strums a song on his guitar in the park, his father approaches, clapping and exclaiming, "The Romalotti gene is alive and well, even though they are not biologically related." They talk about Chance's burial and embrace. On to more upbeat subjects, Danny informs his kid that his proposal to Christine was accepted. He asks Daniel to be his best man and reveals that they would be getting married in October. Daniel is honored, of course. "Good, because I don't have a second choice," chuckles Danny. Naturally, the conversation eventually shifts to Tessa, who has transformed Daniel's perspective on the world and has become his companion, teacher, and therapist. She seems to mean more to Danny than he does. Daniel fears that he is beginning to feel something for Tessa. Danny has seen the symptoms, so he's not shocked. Despite his feelings of betrayal, Daniel contends that Heather would prefer that he find love once more. Tessa is married to Mariah, and they have the cutest little child, Daniel reminds his father. He must figure out how to let it go. What will Christine ask Daniel to do? When Danny and Daniel show up in society, Lauren and Christine are already working on a wedding dress. Danny is certain that whatever Cricket chooses to wear will look great. Daniel gives Christine a hug of congratulations and tells her that she is the finest thing that has ever happened to his dad, therefore it's fortunate that his mother isn't there. Chris finds out that Daniel will be Danny's best man and that she has a difficult favor to request. They all know that Phyllis will try to disrupt their wedding, so she needs Daniel to keep her as far away as possible. The early evening air in Genoa City was unusually warm for the season, with a hint of difficulty mingled with a sense of promise. As servers moved through the crowd carrying trays of champagne flutes, guests were arriving for the lavish launch party held at Chancellor Winter's, their laughter resonating off the gleaming marble flooring. Everything about the event had been meticulously prepared, including the decor, which was adorned with deep reds and golds, and the music, which was subdued yet loud enough to spark lively discussions. However, beneath every courteous grin and well-chosen attire, there were simmering frustrations that could not be resolved by event preparation. A few of them were private. Some were on business. And it was both for some unfortunate people. Devon stood close to the door, welcoming visitors as they entered, his face friendly but his thoughts anything but at ease. It was meant to be a celebration tonight, but he kept looking to the far side of the room, searching for a specific individual. Amanda was supposed to be there, but she hasn't shown up yet. She might just be running late, he told himself, trying to dispel the fear, but a voice in the back of his mind told him it was more. When Abby entered, looking gorgeous in a sleek, dark green gown, he pushed it down and grinned. Despite their greetings, Devon's gaze continued to dart to the door. Abby was aware, but remained silent. Tonight, she was there for her own reasons, some of which were absolutely calculated and some of which were personal. Phyllis was already stirring the kettle across the room. She was talking animatedly with a man she had just met a few minutes before while leaning over the bar, but her eyes were focused on two women who were standing close to the middle of the floor. Anyone familiar with Summer and Sally could notice the subtle tension in the way their bodies tilted slightly apart, but otherwise, they appeared to be having a friendly chat. They had a little too much practice in their smiles. They might have seemed like best buddies catching up at a fancy gathering to the casual eye. It was obvious to Phyllis and a few others that they were engaged in a game where each woman was concealing her actual thoughts behind a wall of courteous repartee. Phyllis grinned. She enjoyed a good fictitious BFF fiasco. Sally's laugh was musical and light, but as she looked at Summer, her eyes were keen. The epitome of grace, she tilted her head slightly and whispered, "I'm so glad we're putting the past behind us. Don't you believe life is too short to harbor resentment?" Summer returned the smile, the edges of her lips curling but falling short of her eyes. "Definitely," she answered in a kind but cool tone. "It's all about moving forward." Although they appeared to be two women coming together in harmony at that precise moment, the reality was much more tangled. They were both thinking about Nick, about old scars that had never quite healed, and about new lines that neither of them was prepared to let fall. Chance and Sharon stood side by side across the room, observing the dynamics. Chance nodded to Sally and Summer and muttered, "Looks like trouble's brewing over there." Sharon smiled slightly, knowingly. Some persons are unable to assist themselves. Nothing remains buried for long, though, that's Genoa City for you. Her eyes strayed to the bar, where Phyllis was now whispering something to Tucker, whose face was as unreadable as ever. Sharon felt uneasy, but she didn't share it. The launch was meant to take place tonight, and she was resolved to concentrate on the bright side, at least until it was hard to find. Adam's unexpected and unwelcome arrival marked the first significant change in the evening's trajectory. There was a tremor throughout the room just from his presence. Champagne glasses halted in midair, conversation stalled, and eyes followed him as he moved with that recognizable blend of calm detachment and arrogance. Sally looked at him from the other side of the room, and her poise wavered for a second. Summer saw right away. Nick, who had been circulating with a tumbler of bourbon, did the same. Everyone who knew Nick could tell by the slight change in his demeanor that something was going wrong. With a smile that was more historical than words could convey, Adam walked up to Sally. With his eyes fixed on hers, he replied smoothly, "I hear congratulations are in order." Summer moved a little closer, as though to blend in without directly interfering, and said, "You've done well for yourself." Sally smiled again, but it was a tight one. "I'm grateful, Adam." Adam remained motionless despite the courteous dismissal. "Enjoy the party." He hung around long enough for Nick to move across the room and stand squarely between them. Even the string quartet in the corner appeared to pause briefly before starting their set because of the intense tension. Another storm was building while everyone's attention was on that triangle as it developed. At last, Devin saw Amanda enter, but rather than feeling relieved, he felt uneasy. She wasn't by herself. Nate was by her side, and the two of them appeared to be at ease. Too cozy. Devin's thoughts raced through potential outcomes, each one more disagreeable than the previous. He took a stride in their direction, but Lily stopped him with a brief embrace before he could get to them. She responded brightly, "Big night," but she was keeping a tight eye on him. She had observed his response as soon as Amanda and Nate entered the room. She was already aware that this evening would put more than just business alliances to the test. Friends and former partners weren't the only people experiencing tension. Despite their best efforts to conceal it, Kyle and Summer, one of Genoa City's most adored supercouples, were feeling the pressure. Kyle's thoughts were elsewhere, on a text he had received earlier from Audra that he hadn't shared with Summer, even though he had spent the majority of the evening having courteous conversations with various business partners. Although it wasn't flirty, it included enough uncertainty to make him feel something he didn't want to admit. Tonight, Summer, on the other hand, became more conscious of their separation. She had attempted to dismiss it as the inevitable disorder of a packed gathering, but she knew in her heart that it was more. Even though Kyle was standing right next to her, he always seemed a bit too far away when she looked at him. When Tucker made his move, the undercurrents of the night started to swirl more quickly. With a smile that stopped short of his eyes, he approached the microphone and broke the mellow music. The room echoed with murmurs as he spoke, "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice echoing across the audience, "before we toast to the future, I think it's only fair we acknowledge the complexities of the present." Tucker had a way of making things seem both threatening and complimentary. Those who knew him could sense the caution in his tone as he spoke hazily about openness and trust in business. It was specifically aimed at someone, but nobody knew exactly who yet. Standing close to the stage, Phyllis listened intently to every word and experienced a rush of excitement. She liked it when the plan for the evening deviated. Parties, in her opinion, weren't really memorable unless someone left crying or furious. She was already figuring out in her head how she could use this to her advantage, depending on who fell for it. There were so many potential fault lines tonight: Sally, Summer, Devin, Amanda, Nate, Kyle, Tucker, and it would only take one spark to blow everything up. That spark appeared when Adam chose to confront the issue, possibly encouraged by Nick's obvious annoyance. Without waiting for approval, he lifted his glass and yelled loudly enough for many groups in the vicinity to hear. "Cheers to fresh starts," he remarked, giving Sally a purposeful glance. Nick's jaw tensed as he said, "and to remember that sometimes, the past is worth revisiting." Summer intervened swiftly, advising everyone to concentrate on the launch rather than antiquity, but the harm had already been done. More and more people were drawn into the web of conjecture as whispers started to circulate. Kyle and Summer's silent discomfort eventually manifested itself in a more noticeable way in the corner. Her voice was low but tinged with suspicion as she asked him directly whether something was happening. He reassured her that everything was fine, but his voice was unconvinced. She was aware that he was concealing something, and that information weighed heavily on them both. Sharon saw the change across the room and mentally noted it. Although she had witnessed enough relationships in Genoa City to know when a storm was coming, she still cared about Kyle and Summer. The audience dwindled a little as the evening went on, but the tension remained high. Rather, it compressed into more focused moments, side chats in shadowed nooks, lingering looks, and remarks said in voices too low for the rest of the room. It was obvious by the time the last toast was made that this launch party would be remembered for far more than the champagne or the decor. At least one individual had left with more questions than answers, a super couple had been driven closer to the brink, and fake friendships had crumbled under the pressure. The night was never simply the night in Genoa City, it was the start of something new.